Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. I would also like to remind you that in addition to the audience in this room, we have people watching and listening online, so please consider your language in comments and testimony today. Today's meeting is a hybrid board meeting. Some presenters and guests will appear in person and some will appear virtually. For those presenting virtually, please mute your mic when you're not speaking. And when you're presenting, make sure to unmute your mic and turn on your camera. For those joining us in person to provide public testimony or present, please turn your mic on when you begin speaking so the green light is showing, and off when you've completed your remarks so the red light is showing. And for all presenters, please state your name for the record before speaking or responding to questions. May I have a motion on the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Brim Edwards moves, Commissioner Moyer seconds approval of the consent calendar. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 The consent calendar is approved.
Opportunity for public comment on non-agenda matters. This is a time for the board to hear public testimony, not for board deliberation. When it is your turn to speak, I will call your name and unmute you or call you to the presenter's table. I will set a timer for 2 minutes when you begin speaking and announce when your time is up, at which point please wrap up your sentence. We have 7 people signed up for verbal testimony and received 28 written testimonies, which were shared with board members and staff. We're going to start with virtual testimony. Addie Smith, you can unmute yourself and begin.
Good morning. My name is Addie Smith. Today is May 28, 2026. I'm speaking before the Multnomah County Commission. When I have the opportunity to speak a bit longer, I'm going to provide court transcripts and testimony of current probation officers at the Department of Community Justice stating that they did not provide probationers with instructions on probation violations. I'm also going to provide proof that Amanda Miller, an Oregon commissioned public notary or notary public, has had probation officers commit fraud and perjure themselves. She then had them take those fraudulent notarized documents to Washington County Circuit Court and had Judge Kathleen Proctor sign them. Judge Proctor is the same judge who allowed her colleague and fellow Caucasian judge who was convicted of CSAM and watching child porn for children under the age of 2 from the bench to bail out of jail on his own recognizance. However, she's been harassing and violating the laws and rights of innocent young Black men. These Caucasian women, Judge Proctor and Amanda Miller, are racists. They have consistently misled the court and made misrepresentations that have caused harm to young Black men. Amanda Miller is a nuisance. She's a disgusting, vile racist employed by these commissioners who have refused to terminate her or investigate the concerns that I have been addressing about her for years. I have not been contacted once. They have, Amanda Miller, she's been hired by this group of Democrats, the same people who appoint these judges, Democrats. They are allowed to violate the laws and rights of Black people who make up 2% of the population in this state, but are over 9% unemployed and over 9% incarcerated.
Time.
It's not always because they're committing crimes.
Next, we have in-person testimony. We have Talia Giardini, Michelle Milla, Vicky Payne, and Ciata Thompson.
Hi, good morning. Whenever you're ready, you can get started.
Hi, my name's Talia, and I'm a nurse in recovery. I don't need to argue the merits of the Safe School Zone ordinance, but I do have some concerns. Making an exemption must be done carefully, as the term healthcare provider can be used broadly and would include PPOP's peer support workers. The exemption should include licensed healthcare providers only. This would allow Portland Street Medicine to continue to operate freely while restricting PPOP. I would also suggest exemptions based on organization type, as some of the members of PPOP hold licenses. PSM is clinically structured with licensed clinicians that bill Medicaid. PPOP is a peer-run organization that distributes needles, pipes, and foils. PSM is healthcare delivery. PPOP is paraphernalia distribution. These are two vastly different entities and should be treated as such. Only licensed clinical organizations should be exempt. Also, what is the recourse for repeat violations? Handing someone a pamphlet does little to deter behavior. We need clear definitions of escalating steps, otherwise the ordinance is meaningless. PPOP isn't known for following the rules or respecting community. They're known for intimidating the public, including myself and people in this room. Last week, I was harassed by PPOP right outside this very boardroom for using my free speech. It is not okay, and we need real accountability. We should require proper biohazard disposal, which is already the law, with no ban distribution of drug supplies with no medical benefits, such as pipes and foil. If this ordinance allows for loopholes, it is nothing more than a virtue signal to placate the public. I'll also add, I don't know a single recovering addict that thinks handing out drug supplies is a good idea, and definitely not near schools. If PPOP is so hell-bent on drug supply handouts, they can do it outside their own homes. This isn't complicated, it's common sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michelle Milla. I'm a chair of the Stadium Neighborhood Subcommittee of the Northwest District Association. And today I am submitting a written evidentiary packet documenting 2 years of observed conditions associated with mobile syringe distribution in the Stadium Hood corridor and designated safe route to school. The proposed Safe School Zones ordinance that is on the agenda today exists because residents documented what happened when harm reduction theory met neighborhood reality, and because neither the county nor the state had established operational standards, accountability, or location-based protections for syringe distribution near schools. The issue was never whether harm reduction has value. The issue was whether any standards, oversight, or accountability existed when one specific distribution model operated in public space. Our documentation includes children in proximity to active drug use inside a posted school zone, repeated public injections, syringe disposal into storm drains, recurring biohazardous debris, and the absence of any cleanup, reporting, registration, or operational accountability mechanisms. Also, following neighborhood public testimony in 2024, masked PPOP harm reduction volunteers chased and harassed residents in the Stadium Hood neighborhood. The incident resulted in on-record commentary from the Multnomah County District Attorney about the healthcare outreach teams. The packet submitted today, and I have it here, I'd like to leave it with the board clerk, and I'm going to email it to you, Commissioners, is a time-stamped record documenting pattern, proximity, and accountability failure, and importantly, this didn't remain a neighborhood concern. As you know, the mayors of Portland, Gresham, Troutdale have weighed in, 5 school district superintendents have weighed in, legislators, physicians, residents, and policymakers across the region have engaged in these same questions. The proposed buffer is meaningful because it formally recognizes that location matters, but a boundary without enforcement is just one that exists on paper. The documentation submitted today shows what is happening in the absence of these safeguards, and I urge the board to strengthen the ordinance with accountability so our neighborhoods can become cleaner, safer, and more functional for everyone. And thank you for your work on this.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Vicki Payne. I'm here today both in a personal capacity as well as the volunteer executive director of both the Future Portland Action Fund and the Future Portland Community Coalition organizations, of which we have roughly 1,500 members in the Portland metro area. We are also friends and allies of the Stadium neighborhood and Friends of Couch Park, and we support everything they've said thus far about this harm reduction bill. One of our earliest goals was always to push the city and county to enact stronger good neighbor authority. We would love to see the day when all service providers, both public and private, sanctioned or unsanctioned, who do beneficial and necessary work in our communities, are good stewards of the neighborhoods they operate in. The majority of our wonderful providers do this without even being asked because they know this type of attitude fosters a good relationship with neighbors that often leads to neighbors volunteering and or donating to their causes. When I heard some of the testimony on the topic of removing an unsanctioned needle handout near schools last week, I was quite frankly shocked that some of the advocates for this pop-up suggested this was the county's fault for not cleaning up the needles or the police's fault for not knowing that they should be there at a certain date and time arresting drug dealers. We have countless other needle service providers across Multnomah County, and I have not heard horror stories about piles of needles near their place of business or open-air drug markets popping up nearby. I presume this is because they are acting as good stewards of their neighborhoods so they don't get complaints about creating an attractive nuisance in the neighborhood. We wouldn't need to be discussing that ordinance if P-POP were acting in good faith and coming back and cleaning up after themselves and finding a way to deter drug dealers that follow their handout schedule. Unfortunately, there are several organizations doing good work in our community but follow an anti-police rhetoric that causes them to encourage harm on their own clients by refusing to call the police. Weirdly, they assume that everyone is fearful of the police, so instead of trying to actually reduce harm to their clients, they encourage them to get their fix right alongside their free needles. I and many others look forward to the day when the city and the county can put some strings on their contracts and rules on their books that require all service providers to truly be good neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Vega Peterson and commissioners. My name is Ciata Thompson, and I'm a resident of D1. I'm testifying in support of stronger protections around schools. My position is straightforward. Mobile syringe distribution services should be prohibited within school zones and instead located near hospitals and major medical facilities. This is not a debate about whether people struggling with addiction deserve help. They do. This is not a debate about whether healthcare services should exist. They should. The question is where these services belong. If mobile distribution programs are intended to provide healthcare outreach, wound care, overdose prevention, and referrals to treatment, then they should be connected to healthcare infrastructure, not placed near schools or neighborhoods where children walk every day. What I still have not heard from county officials or providers is a clear explanation for why proximity to schools is even considered acceptable in the first place. And if these are healthcare services, why are they not centered near hospital, clinics, detox facilities, and treatment providers? Why should schools absorb the impact of policies intended to address adult addiction? The obvious reality is that providers place services where they believe the target population already exists and congregates. But when that placement contributes to open drug activity, discarded needles, overdose responses, and public disorder near schools, the county has a responsibility to establish boundaries. No child should become collateral damage in a failed public policy experiment, and children should not have to walk past discarded needles on their way to class. We've already sacrificed our treasure through Measure 110 and the SHS tax. Why must we also sacrifice our children?
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Next, we have Karen Chire, Lisa Jackson Spotted Elk, and State Representative Darcy Edwards.
Good morning. My name's Karen Chire. I own a convenience store in downtown Portland by Providence Park, and I'm a member of Stadium Hood. And I believe needle exchanges and syringe service providers must be held to stricter standards. Oh my gosh. There should be no paraphernalia distribution by prohibiting the distribution of items like foil and pipes, as these tools contribute to the drug use and do not promote recovery or harm reduction. We do not sell either at our store for that exact reason. Accountability, there should be accountability in distribution. So syringe service providers should document every needle and Narcan distribution. Knowing who receives these items is crucial for accountability and ensuring responsible use. There should be tracking of drug abuse issues. By establishing a comprehensive list of individuals with drug abuse issues is essential. This data will help identify how many people require services and enable targeted interventions. There should be mandatory treatment for criminal activity. If individuals are committing crimes related to drug use, there should be no options. Mandatory treatment must be enforced to ensure they receive the help they need. There should be community impact. Current policies often overlook the broader community harm associated with drug use, including increased crime, public disorder, and exposure of children to drug-related activities. I have witnessed this firsthand for the last 5+ years owning the store in downtown Portland. We should focus on treatment. Real harm reduction requires pathways to treatment, not just enabling drug use. Prioritize detox programs, mental health support, and recovery housing. This ordinance should reflect all the above, along with the need for safety and accountability, particularly in areas near schools. Existing measures are insufficient and do not adequately protect children or the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have lightning. And one last call for Lisa Jackson, Spotted Elk, and Representative Darcy Edwards.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Humanity X Super Abundance Lab. Again, Bill Oram from the Oregonian did an article about the Portland Trailblazers, and he said that he thinks they're going to be leaving Portland. And when I said that many months ago, a lot of people looked at me and said, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Here's the reality. Tom Dundon made $2 billion right on the buy of the Portland Trailblazers. Congratulations, I'm very impressed. Then when the expansion teams came into play, Las Vegas and Seattle, when both of those sell for $7 billion to $10 billion each, they divide that amongst the franchise owners of 32. Each one of those people will make $500 million. Congratulations, Tom Dundon. Now, when the media agreement came into play, that's going to be additional income for Tom Dundon. You've already pulled all your money out and you've made $2 billion on the buy. I'm impressed. Now, here's your next move. You're going to Austin, Texas. Why are you going to Austin, Texas, sir? Because gambling is going to become legalized. The casino will be put into place in Austin, Texas. And Tom Dundon, you're going to make another $2 to $5 billion on the buy. I'm very impressed. Now, Marion Adelson, they tried to make a move, as you know, in Dallas. That's why they bought the Dallas Mavericks. That's why Mark Cuban does nothing but manage the team now. He was there just to be pushed off to the side while they do their casino and resort, and they're still trying to get that approved. So again, casinos, resorts, sports and entertainment industry, great move, Tom Dundon. I'm so impressed. Congratulations. Get ready to be moved, Portland Trailblazers. You're out of Portland.
Thank you.
That's all for non-agenda testimony.
All right, let's move on to R1.
R1, resolution consenting to Chair Vega Peterson's appointment of Rachel Pearl as the Director of Department of County Human Services.
Do I have a second? Second. Oh, wait, who was the first? Okay, all right. Commissioner Singleton moves, Commissioner Moyer seconds, approval of R1. So I am very excited this morning to move forward the appointment of Rachel Pearl as the county's new Department of County Human Services Director. And there's a color theme this morning, lovely. So Rachel was selected to fill this critical role for the county and the community after an extensive national search. Rachel brings a 25-year career in public and nonprofit leadership as both a chief program officer and years leading work in the juvenile justice system with a focus on restorative justice, both in Clackamas County and in California. Since she joined the county in 2022 as the DCHS Deputy Director, Rachel has distinguished herself as a trusted leader and dedicated public service. In the time that she's been with the county, she has led from the front in our response to so many remarkable and unprecedented challenges, from severe weather events to navigating a federal shutdown and food assistance to supporting asylum seekers and families needing eviction prevention. Her leadership has ensured the department's services and interventions were critical parts of every single response. She has especially played a pivotal role in providing stability through leadership transitions at DCHS. serving as the department's interim director since last October. During this time, Rachel also served as the interim director for Youth and Family Services Division and interim director for the Preschool and Early Learning Division. She often says that DCHS is the best department at the county, and she's a big part of that. As the permanent DCHS director, Rachel will build on the work she's already begun at the department, one of the county's largest and most complex, with approximately 1,140 employees and a $440 million budget. So now I would like to turn things over to Deputy Chief Operating Officer Sarah Morrissey to continue the presentation.
Thank you so much, Chair Vega-Peterson. Good morning, Board of Commissioners. I am Sarah Morrissey, she, her pronouns, and I'm one of your Deputy Chief Operating Officers at Multnomah County. I am pleased to join you this morning to provide background on the appointment of Rachel Pearl as the Permanent Director of the Department of County Human Resources, also known as DCHS. I've had the opportunity to work with Rachel for the past few months. Sometimes I start and end my day with her. Sometimes we end up wearing the same outfits. And I've been so impressed with her ability to juggle multiple programs, provide critical budget information off the top of her head, and work with teams to think through complicated issues and propose creative solutions. She's very thorough in her work and is an active leader, always available for a question, authoring a memo, or leading a difficult discussion both internally and externally. Rachel is also very relational. She cares deeply about her team and her work. She's also a cheerleader for her teams, ensuring that the good work that they lead is known by all of you and the greater community. Even though she has not been at the county that long, everyone here knows her name. Rachel emerged from a national search of nearly 90 applicants, the process of which was led in-house by Cole Whitehurst, so shout out to Cole, he did a great job. We went through 4 panels of interviews, which included DCHS leadership team, community partners, county staff, and union leadership. Our recruitment was grounded in the priority of finding a trauma-informed director with the ability to operate with the maximum impact, dignity, and efficiency to keep DCHS focused on its North Star, the belief that every person at every stage of life should have equitable opportunities to thrive. And we believe Rachel is that leader. She brings a lifelong commitment to upstream investments, early intervention, and community-based solutions that reduce system involvement and promote long-term well-being. This is exactly the vision that we need through county investments with Preschool for All, Sun Schools, eviction prevention, and all the work that ADVSD and IDD provide to Multnomah County residents. Rachel holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology from San Francisco State University, and when she's not working, which is maybe a few hours a day, Rachel enjoys going to concerts, comedy shows, and most importantly, spending time with her family. If you've noticed, Rachel showed up with a pretty large crew. She's here joined by all of her children, who have the most insanely busy social calendars I've ever heard of. They have plays, soccer, skateboarding, pageants, basketball, and running their own businesses. They're here supporting her today, so welcome Kaya, Mila, Izzy, and Jory. We are confident that Rachel's expertise, leadership style, and values align well with Multnomah County's mission, and we're so excited to welcome her to the permanent role. I now invite you to hear directly from Rachel.
Thanks, Sarah. Hey, y'all. I look back there and my oldest kiddo's crying, so wish me luck. Board, commissioners, all of you, amazing humans, it's an honor to be before you today. My name is Rachel Pearl, she, her pronouns. Interim director of DCHS, maybe, we'll see what happens. And absolutely the best department here at Multnomah County. Stepping into the role of interim director when the amazing Mohammed Bader stepped away in October. He's here, so deserves all the flowers. Super grateful that he came today. That was a really overwhelming moment. Mohammed worked so hard to create a culture at DCHS that centered humanity, commitment to excellence, and centering the people that we serve, a commitment to innovation, and the belief that we should strive to be 10 times better today than we were yesterday. So those are some big shoes to fill. When I look back over the last few years at the county, this time has allowed me to grow more deeply as a leader, adjust my approach to impact change in ways that I'm incredibly proud of, and to step into a role that I'm honored to be in. This might feel like an acceptance speech, so feel free to play music or escort me off the table if you must. I do strongly believe, some of you may know, that we should play more music in this space, so I'll save that proposal for a different day. But I'm the legacy of my parents, Art and Mary Pearl. Any chance I have to talk about my parents is one I'll grasp. So bear with me as I take a page from Derek in the health department's book from the employee recognition event and take advantage of the mic that you've given me. Hopefully you won't regret that. My parents were committed to social justice their entire lives. My dad started the Upward Bound program at University of Oregon. He also was Huey Newton's advisor when he got his doctorate at UCSC, so he was a formative part of my life as a child. My dad started the Board of Education for the prison system in the state of California. He was a staunch advocate for democratic education, and he believed in all people and was committed to removing barriers and fighting alongside to make the world work for everyone. My mom was a former nun. She left the church with a bunch of other rebellious nuns when they demoted women because they were like, heck no. And she became an educator, a principal, was an advocate for supporting children with disabilities, and a solid fixture in fighting for the rights of farm workers in California. And a huge Planned Parenthood supporter, which I always find to be a great visual, is my former nun mom being a Planned Parenthood supporter. They both taught me that I was born with privilege, and out of privilege comes obligation. It's not choice, to spend your life removing barriers so that others can have access to the same privilege that you happen to be born with. I've lost both my parents, and so my own personal heroes, and so in honor of them and with gratitude for the foundation that they set for me, I work hard every day to make them proud, and only hope that I have and will continue to do so. So for DCHS is woven into the fabric of who I am. At every corner of this department has a piece of me. I have a bonus little brother who was born with cerebral palsy, and we were inseparable as kids. He navigated a world that created so many barriers that didn't need to be there and set limitations for him. And yet he pushed through it and earned his master's degree in library and information science from UW with presidential honors. He's accomplished so much, and I'm so proud of him. I had a brother lose his battle to addiction. I can still hear his laugh. He was a hilarious human being. I was a solo parent when my girls were little. It was a struggle, even though I had a good career to get by, and sometimes difficult to just keep things together because we live in a world that makes basic survival feel unattainable to so many people. I put all 4 of my children through preschool. I know the stress and strain of that time in family's life, and I took care of both of my aging parents until their final breath. Those are just a few examples that make me who I am and why DCHS. Every division, every program, all of it holds a place in my heart, and so does the responsibility of leading this incredible team into the future. We're facing unprecedented times in this community and across this country. DCHS will play a critical role as we figure out what the future holds and how we will show up and continue to adapt to support this community. We are facing housing instability like never before. Basic needs are unattainable through rising costs of absolutely everything, and changes in eligibility for Medicaid and SNAP already have or soon will be impacting thousands of people here in Multnomah County. And through it all, I remain optimistic. Because I know that we can do hard things, and I know that we can get this right. We thrive when everyone has access to basic needs from birth to end of life, and I'm ready to figure out how we do that here in Multnomah County. But I won't be doing that alone. Our partnerships with every department across this county will be critical as we figure this out together. My department director colleagues, many of them in this room, I'm so grateful for them. They are my mentors. They are so inspiring to me and some of the best humans that I know. And I look forward to working with them to show what one county truly looks like in action. Multnomah County deserves the best from us, and we will continue to think about how we evolve to meet this moment. I have a strong vision for the future of DCHS, and I'm really excited to keep working towards that. But to the employees of DCHS, just wow. This room should give them a standing ovation. You are literal containers of hope. Like, that's when I see you, that's what I see. You're just containers of hope for this community. I know personally and professionally what your contributions provide for the people who come to us for services. I know this work isn't easy, and it feels as though it becomes more difficult as we navigate painful budget and political times. I know we have a lot of work to do together to make it more sustainable, and we will do that. I want you to know that you are the heart and soul of this county and this community, and I will show up for you and work hard with you to continue to make things better together. And to our partners and contracted providers, you're solid gold. Thank you for showing up, leaning in, reaching out, and being in this with us. We could not do it without you. Let's keep strategizing on the opportunities we have to make it all work. I look forward to each and every opportunity I have to connect with you. Specifically to the DCHS leadership team, I mean, they are superstars. I always feel incredibly honored to share a table or space with them. And I share this moment with each of you. Many of them are here today. I find myself in awe of all of you. Your support, your faith in me, your collaboration, wisdom, talent, expertise are all things I value and feel inspired by daily. You give me the energy to keep going. You inspire me with your ideas, your innovation, and you make me laugh. And as my dad always said, if you are not having fun, you are not doing it right. So I think we are absolutely doing it right, because working with you all is totally fun. This county is so lucky to have your leadership and dedication to this work and to the people. I especially want to thank Alexis Ashby for stepping into the interim leadership of DCHS with me in October. It has been a wild ride, and we made it, well, at least this far. You are a brilliant force, and I look forward to continuing to partner with you and our incredible leadership team moving forward. To the 4 incredible humans who have taught me the most about leadership, my children, Kaya, Mila, Izzy, and Jory, your honesty, sometimes brutally so, feedback, love, support, patience, generosity, love for others, and your willingness to sacrifice so many things so that your mom can have a career where she strives to make this world a better place for everyone, including and especially you, is remarkable. Thank you for your grace, the way you care about each other and everyone around you, and the way you hold me accountable and ensure I am the best version of myself for you and the rest of the world. Sometimes I joke and say that they've given me more feedback this morning than you could have possibly given me, and it's true. I should be really highly evolved, but turns out I'm still a work in progress. I'm so grateful that I get to be your mama. You are the greatest joy of my life, and I'm lucky to have you in my corner when I come home from this wild work part of my life. And finally, to the people of Multnomah County who DCHS is privileged to serve and walk alongside. You are so strong. Don't ever doubt that. I see you, and when you reach out to me and to us, we hear you. I take it in, and it matters. You matter. Your strength, perseverance, resilience inspire me every day. You have to fight so hard for yourself and for your families, and the struggles are structural, not personal. You are not the problem. In fact, we need you, your talents, your experiences, your perspectives. You make this community a brighter place to live and work. You are beautiful, and you deserve a world that does not make it so hard to just survive. As Frida Kahlo said, at the end of the day, we can endure much more than we think we can. And my goodness, that woman sure did endure. And so have you. Let us not endure them alone, though. Let's do it together. I look forward to earning your trust and working with the incredible team at DCHS to contribute to continue removing barriers, redesigning service delivery, making this journey feel less lonely, and telling the true story about the people most impacted by a system that was never designed for them. So your efforts and hard work lead to thriving and not just surviving. So thank you to all of you on the board for your passion and vision for this county to be one that centers humanity, collaboration, innovation, and the belief that all people deserve the opportunity to flourish. I appreciate you giving me this time and not escorting me from the table or playing music to say my time is that. You could have played the beat, I guess. And hopefully for giving me this opportunity. Otherwise, this will be slightly awkward for all of us. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for those. That's amazing, memorable speech. So we do have someone signed up for public comment. So we are going to go to public comment and then we will invite you back, and then we'll go to the board for any questions and comments.
Lightning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Superhumanity and Superabundance AI Lab. I do approve of the resolution, but now moving on to the corrections in the jails is that I want to make it very clear that I want to have body-worn cameras on these correctional officers, and until you do that, you do not have any clear understanding on what is going on, period. And the public needs to have access to that video and audio and have an understanding what goes on. Plain and simple, those cameras need to be put on the correction officers of Multnomah County Sheriffs and the patrol officers. It needs to be done. Federal Judge Michael Simon agrees with me on that. Now, as far as Inverness Jail, as I've stated before, and you have that outrageous overtime that you allow these correction officers to make, what, $300,000 a year? I mean, and you're the ones allowing this to happen. You're their budget. You fund them. Now, again, what I have stated is that these jails are just rotating people, homeless people, off the streets, in and out of these jails. That's how they stay open. That's their business. Many people out on the streets have been arrested 5 times, 10 times, 20 times per year, and that's fact. That's the truth. My position right now is we close Inverness Jail. Close it down. It's ineffective. What we do is we open up more treatment centers for these people. Treatment centers, which they can stay in and improve. And again, when you're talking that overtime issue, a lot of those correction officers will transfer over. We won't have a shortage of staff anymore. There won't be this outrageous overtime paid anymore because they always say, well, we can't hire anybody. We can't find anybody to work here. It's just a hostile environment. So let's make $300,000 plus a year. Well, that's a big incentive to not hire anybody. When you're pulling $300,000 plus a year, and numerous people are doing that in the corrections division, and it has to stop. It has to stop. And I'm going after your wages. I'm taking those away from you, Multnomah County Sheriff's Department. I'm taking away your overtime. And you remember, Lightning did that. When you see me out on the streets, Lightning took away your overtime. Close the Inverness Jail. And again, open up more treatment centers, which is better for the community members. The health department has no clue what goes on inside here until they get the body-worn cameras on these correctional officers. You have no clue. And for you to act like this is some safe place and this great place we have, it's not. It traumatizes the people. We need changes. Get the body-worn cameras on them and cut their overtime.
All right, thank you. I think that's the end of the public testimony, so I'll invite Rachel and Sarah back up so we can continue the presentation. And we will go to the board for questions and comments. We'll start with Commissioner Moyer.
Hello, this is Kirsten. Hey.
It wasn't me.
Yes, definitely.
If somebody's online, can you go on mute, please? Okay, great. Okay. I was like, that's not my voice. Did I start speaking? What happened?
I don't have any questions. I am honored to get to vote for Rachel Pearl in this position. I view being at Multnomah County and being a commissioner as being part of a mighty team, and we all have our roles, and mine is often to annoy department heads in the pursuit of how can we do more with less and how can we serve the people of this community. And so it is an honor to vote in favor of somebody I view as a teammate in that work, and we share some surprising similarities in our life. I think that might surprise people. I think we're born to progressive Catholics, have been single moms, and have spent our lives fighting for the services of the those who are most quickly forgotten, by society. And I enjoyed the conversation I got to have with you, to get to know you more on a personal level. And I look forward to your permanent placement in this role so that I can continue to make your life more interesting in the pursuit of helping our community.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you, Chair. I wish I had made up a bunch of questions to ask you just to make this more awkward for you. I have just really appreciated all of our conversations, and I think particularly talking about this role and you moving into it as a permanent director. And I just really appreciated, I said, oh, I already know why. You don't need to tell me. And you were like, I don't think you do know my why. And when you explained it to me, it made me understand even more why you want to do this work and this role. And I think that you are, I really appreciate how you are willing to be innovative and think about things differently. And when something doesn't resonate, you take the time to try and think about it a little bit before you jump to no. So watching some of that evolution in a really short time has been amazing. And I also am very happy to be able to vote yes for you today. So I'm really glad that you've been willing to step up into this role. And thank you for, I think since I've been here, you've been interim something plus deputy and then so multiple roles. So thank you for stepping up for PEL, then for the department, and now into the permanent role.
Thank you. And it was YFS before it was PDL. Commissioner Brim Edwards.
Good morning. So this will probably be the only time I'm not going to ask you questions. So enjoy.
We'll see you this afternoon.
Exactly. You know, it's just a hall pass for this morning. I was just reflecting on sort of the 3 years I've been on the commission and all the various ways that we have intersected, and some in routine ways and other ways that were less than routine. And whether it was around Sun School, something that's sort of near and dear to my heart, or when we were facing the government shutdown that was threatening benefits to our hundreds of thousands of people in our community, or looking at Preschool for All and how the program moved forward. I've appreciated the way that you've approached the work in a way that's very non-defensive. I love that you look at data, and I think you usually look at things as it's possible to do things differently or better, or to defend, like, we are on the right path, and never afraid to, like, speak up and just state your case, but also unafraid to, like, just be a thought partner and sort of share your knowledge. And you know, sometimes it's bringing me around to where you've landed, but other times to where, like, how could we do this differently or accelerate things? And I really have appreciated that. I also just want to say that sometimes I have anxiety around children's safety, and I've really appreciated that you've been, like, really direct in responses when I've raised issues around that topic. And I guess the other thing I just want to mention is often I relate, especially in things related to human services, around my kids. And I'm always thinking, like, okay, I have this life where I went from person-to-person defense, or what used to be called man-to-man defense, to a zone defense when I went from 2 to 3 kids. And I'm always explaining, like, how complicated it is when you go to 3, and then when I'm talking to you, it's like, dang it. There's something, like, somebody else who's playing a bigger zone defense than I am. And I always appreciate that you sort of bring that into your work, because I do think our experiences as parents, as caregivers for our parents, and our extended lives really do, in good ways, impact our lives. So I really appreciate you bring that to the table, and I think it makes you a stronger leader, and I think the county benefits for that. So I'm going to be delighted and honored to vote for you this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director Pearl and Director, for just being here this morning. I'm grateful that I was late, actually. As I was driving in, I was crying listening to your remarks, actually tearing up. No, seriously, I'm being honest. Each and every time we engage with the DCHS, the very first time when I sat with DCHS and Dr. Bader, it turned into a tear fest, thinking about just discussing the work. And DCHS is truly the soul of the county. I didn't have an opportunity to learn or know your actual why, until we went through the interview process, and to hear about just the stock of where you came from and your parents and your heart for justice and the work that you've done with just the youth and corrections and just how the amount of opportunities that we have through just the work that we're doing, we're in complete alignment. And then today I learned something new. We are very similar. I use comedy and live music to get through all of my stuff. So I'm as you know, a resounding yes. We are grateful to have you in this position to continue the work of DCHS, and shout out to your family and to your parents and to your brother. You are honoring them well, but be sure to take care of yourself through the process as well. We'll hold you accountable to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will just start by saying thank you for so many people showing up for you today. I think that speaks so much to who you are as a person and a leader. So, Mohammed, it is great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I love that you're coming back for all the celebrations. We'll just keep that rolling. And it's also great to see the DCHS leadership team here today. So many folks from the divisions and the leadership team. I want to give a special shout out to Alexis Ashby for stepping up as the interim deputy director over these past several months and doing such a great job. So thank you for doing that. Rachel, you are genuinely an amazing human being, much better human being than I am. And I just appreciate the way that you do bring humor to sometimes the toughest things that are happening. And I think that is what is such a great thing of seeing you through and seeing all of us through really hard times. And we do that with humor. We do that with a knowledge of our why, and your why is very clear and really powerful. I love the quote, "If you're not having fun, you are not doing it right." I think that is, even in the tough work that we do every day, I think that is something that is a really, really true thing. So I am just so excited to know that we are going to have you and your leadership here at Multnomah County. I am so happy for DCHS as a department, but also just for our entire community of having you as a part of our leadership team and the really incredible and important work that we do each and every day at Multnomah County. So thank you so much for stepping up for this. And with that, we will take a vote and see how it goes. Deja.
Commissioner Moyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim-Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Of course.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye, the resolution passes.
R2, ratification of collective bargaining agreement 2025 to 2028 between Multnomah County and the Multnomah County Corrections Deputies Association.
May I have a motion? Commissioner Singleton moves, Commissioner Jones-Dixon seconds, approval of R2. So we now have the opportunity to ratify the Multnomah County Corrections Deputies Association contract. The employees notified us of their ratification on Tuesday, May 27. I want to give a big appreciation to Maureen and Stephen for being here, telling us more about this contract. And Nicole, thank you for being here as well. I will turn it over to you. Y'all.
Thank you. That's a tough act to follow. I feel like we should have been the opener here, but okay. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Maureen Weber, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a Labor Relations Manager, and with me are Chief Deputy Stephen Reardon and MICTA President Deputy Nicole Busher. Thank you for having us today. I'm here to request board ratification of the tentative agreement reached in successor bargaining with the Multnomah County Corrections Deputy Association. I served as second chair for these negotiations. This was a collaborative effort from many people on both the union and management bargaining teams, and I would like to take a moment to thank everyone for their dedication and hard work. From the Sheriff's Office, I would like to recognize Chief Deputy Stephen Reardon, Chief Deputy Steve Alexander, HR Director Jeff Heinrich, Professional Standards Unit Manager Stephanie La Caruba, Corrections Captains Brian Parks, Curtis Morrison, Alice Blair, and Brett Russell, and Corrections Lieutenant Matthew Tiffany. We are also fortunate to have subject matter expert support from our budget and class comp teams, Aaron Kaufman and Carly Olenek, respectively. From the union, I would like to thank Tracy Anderson, Chris Wyrestek, Corrections Sergeants Bradley Harrington, Christopher Willoughby, and John Van Houdy, and Corrections Deputies Robert Crumpton, Nicole Busher, Brett King, Joseph Welch, and Matt Blanchard. The county and MICTA entered into negotiations on April 7th, 2025, and had 8 bargaining and mediation sessions. We reached a tentative agreement on a 3-year contract on April 14th, 2026. The union provided its notice of ratification to Human Resources on May 27th, and it now comes before the Board of Commissioners for ratification. This successor CBA covers a 3-year term from July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. Key provisions of this contract include a 2.4% COLA in the first year of the contract, retroactive to July 1, 2025. Deputies and sergeants will see a 5.2% market adjustment, retroactive to July 1, 2025. Year 2 of the CBA will see a 3.3% COLA, and year 3 of the CBA will see a COLA of between 1% and 4%. The parties collaborated on changes to the longevity provision of the CBA, which now allows current and future lateral hires to receive county service credit for up to 10 years of prior corrections certified service. This will help the county remain competitive in attracting experienced candidates. Overall, both teams worked together to resolve a variety of issues and come to an agreement that supports both the county's operational needs and the needs of the county's corrections deputies and sergeants. I believe this agreement is a testament to the strong working relationship between the county and MICTA, and I'm personally proud of the collaborative effort that led to this positive outcome. Thank you. Thank you again, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Open it up for anyone else who wants to talk about the process or the ratification today.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to read a brief statement. Again, for the record, Steve Reardon, Chief Deputy of the Corrections Facilities Division for the Sheriff's Office. I'm here today on behalf of Sheriff Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell and the dedicated correction professionals of the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. The members of the Multnomah County Corrections Deputy Association serve in one of the most complex and challenging public safety environments in our community. We are proud of the work they do, serving with professionalism, commitment, and a true sense of purpose and responsibility. This contract reflects their work. As we all know, labor negotiations are rarely simple. They require a willingness on all sides to work through difficult issues, and I want to acknowledge everyone who participated in the process that got us here today. The results before you reflects a shared commitment to our employees within the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, to the stability of a corrections system, and to the public safety responsibilities entrusted to this agency. This agreement also represents another important step in our ongoing effort to recruit and retain the best corrections staff in the area. We still have significant work ahead to reach full staffing in our jails, but competitive compensation is an important part of that effort. Your support as a board matters and helps us move in the right direction. I want to thank our corrections employees for the work they do every day. I also want to thank the bargaining teams for the professionalism throughout the process, and I want to thank the board for its continued willingness and support in the needs of the public safety system. I'm now going to turn over to President of the Multnomah County Corrections Deputy Association, Nicole Busher.
Good morning. On behalf of Multnomah County Corrections Deputy Association, I'm pleased to address you today as we prepare to ratify our new collective bargaining agreement with the county. This contract represents more than a year and a half of intensive negotiations. Through challenging discussions and good faith bargaining, we've reached the agreement that we believe fairly recognizes the critical role our members play in public safety. Corrections deputies perform demanding and essential work every single day. They maintain safety and security of our facilities, manage complex and often volatile situations, support rehabilitation efforts, and protect our communities, all while facing unique risks and pressures that most people never see. This agreement reflects the value of that hard work and dedication. We want to thank the county negotiation team for their commitment throughout this long process and for working with us to reach a fair resolution. We also want to thank the board for your support and ratification. I know many of you have met with corrections. I know we're kind of like the silent part of law enforcement, I think, here in Multnomah County, and I appreciate you guys making an effort to get to know what our job is and advocating for us. We really do appreciate that. We will look forward to implementing this contract and continue our shared mission to ensure a safe, secure, and effective correction system for Multnomah County. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve and Nicole. All right, do we have any public testimony on this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do.
Okay, we have one person coming up for public testimony, so if you'll just sit in the seats right there, we'll call you up in just a minute.
Lightning.
3 minutes, actually.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Superhumanity, Superabundance AI Lab. Again, I'd like to just say that to the late Dan Handelman, you are the legend. You are the legend. And as you know, Mr. Handelman, I'm the only one sitting up here on this important issue. And you were always at every meeting. You are the legend. Now, pertaining to the correction officers, I don't have any issue with you personally. My issue with Multnomah County River Patrol, who ran me off my marina, Columbia River Marina, 3333 Northeast Marine Drive, tried to set me up, set a little case on my dumpster with 4 large-sized beakers, had their tactical team up there. I caught them in the process. They pulled their guns right in my face. Then they came down to my property. They dove underneath my marina with their divers. They tried to set me up. The night before, I caught one of their friends with a little gray tugboat, and they know who I'm talking to. He's the next Green Beret. He was dropping stuff into my marina. It was coming up to the surface. But what they did, before they came out and dove that next day, he dropped it too far out at the tip of the marina, and their divers weren't able to get underneath it to pull it up, and then they would have pointed at me, arrested me, taken me away for many years. They got caught on that one too, and I had all the media. I called every media person I could, because when law enforcement is trying to set you up, that's all you can do. You got to call the media, get them in there. That same night, they came out with 4 people dressed in black. They had their Crown Vic parked next door. They came into my marina tapping on my doors, and guess what they were going to do that night? They were going to finish their job. That's how upset they were. That's how much they were going to retaliate against me. They wanted me dead. So when I'm talking to the correction officers, I have nothing personal against you. I've never even dealt with you. I'm pertaining to the overtime right now. I want that overtime cost under control. I want those numbers taken down. That's the only issue I have. I want body-worn cameras on the correctional officers, and I know a lot of people sitting in here, they probably don't even have an issue with that. The good people, the good correction officers, they have no issue. The people that have an issue are the bad apples. They want everything kept secret, such as when they tried to set me up on my property, tried to kill me on my property, tried to shut my property down, which they were successful. I give them that. Because the last day I was on my property, I got a call from somebody who said, well, I got some information for you. You get the hell off your property, they're going to kill you tonight again. They're coming back. I was off that property that night and never returned. That's Multnomah County River Patrol, corrupt as hell. And that's a true story, and that's my freedom of speech. Now my time is up. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. I'd invite folks back up to the table, and we will go to the board for any questions or comments. We'll start with Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to appreciate, I think I heard 1.5 years of negotiations and everyone just really sticking with it to get to a deal that really makes sense for folks. So thank you for your diligent work on top of your everyday jobs to make sure that we could get here. I don't have any questions for y'all today.
Okay. Commissioner Brim Edwards.
Appreciation to both sides of the table for reaching an agreement and bringing it to us today. And I'm just going to reflect on the, I think the correctional deputies are one of the group of county employees that most of the public doesn't have an opportunity to see, but as a commissioner in our twice yearly inspections, we have an opportunity to meet and interact. And also, so I always appreciate the information I get, the sort of unsanitized answers to our questions about the work and the job and working for the county and the challenges that we've had, frankly, with just staffing. I also, just Nicole, want to appreciate you for offering to sort of generously introduce us to others, to tours, Commissioner Jones-Dixon and I, to the East County courthouse, and also then the court, sort of the back tour of the courthouse as well, downtown courthouse. So just, I want to thank you for doing that, because it gave, again, I think it's hard for people to visualize what you all do just because of the nature of the setting of your work. So I appreciate that you've made me a more informed commissioner. And again, just appreciate both sides sort of working through the issues that are really important to get through in order to get to a settlement. So thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Yeah, no additional questions. Like I said, it's a long slug, so it's good to know that we arrived today. And I just want to, again, express my gratitude for your service. And I'm looking forward to building well into the future. So thank you.
Thank you. And I will just want to thank you, Maureen, Chief Deputy Reardon, Deputy Busher, and everyone who was involved on the MICTA side, as well as our labor relations staff for getting this 8 sessions over a year of work. It shows a lot of commitment and dedication, but we can't do this work, the important work that we're, that we do here at Multnomah County for so many people without corrections deputies. You guys are an integral part. I appreciate you were saying that you're kind of the quiet, or I forget the word that you used, Nicole, but absolutely, it's crucial, the work that happens within our jails and in our courthouses to serve the folks that we do, and especially when people are in our custody. That is a really incredible responsibility. I will just say I've appreciated in my years here all of the partnership that has been happening, especially with the Sheriff's Office, the corrections deputies, and our corrections health staff on talking about like ways that we could be working together better, and I think that that is reflected in a lot of the changes that have been made. So just want to appreciate you and really celebrate the agreement that we have before us today. So thanks so much. And Commissioner Moyer. and sorry.
No, I just wanted to commend all of you for being able to reach a settlement. I have sat at bargaining tables and I have gone to binding arbitration, which is not fun. And I appreciate the amount of work that went into this contract, and I know how many late hours I'm sure both sides spent on this. So I really do appreciate that work. I'm always happy to support a ratified contract, and I just want to appreciate the work that our corrections deputies do every day. I am well aware that you are working in old buildings in less than ideal conditions with, a lot of challenges. And I know that we do know that, and we are trying to figure a path forward. But your work every day really is important and often unseen and unvalued. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank this unit of corrections deputies, because they are showing up every day, working hard in an environment that is deeply outdated. So thank you.
All right, sorry, apologies, Commissioner Moore, it just threw, I got to the end of the thing. And, okay, so, yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so now we're ready for the vote. So Tasia?
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Moyer?
Yes.
Chair Vega-Peterson?
Yes, the agreement is approved. All right, thank you so much. So we can move on to R3.
R3, work session to consider creating safe school zones in Multnomah County.
Okay, great. So we're going to move into a work session. We're not going to go down because we're actually going to take a break after this before our budget work session to get the table set up. So we'll just stay here for this one. But there was desire for the board to have some more conversations about the policy around creating safe school zones. And so just want to open it up to the board so we can continue to have that conversation. I know I had sent some questions to Commissioner Brim Edwards, and so hoping we can talk through those today, and want to open it up for other questions from the board as well. I will say, I do believe we have Kirsten from Public Health who is online, and some other folks from the Health Department if needed. There she is. And there she is. Hello, Kirsten. Thank you for joining us. I know you're at a conference today.
How do you want us to start? As we framed it up initially, this is establishing a community standard. The first finding in the ordinance recognizes the evidence-based health practice, and again, but really the essence of the ordinance is establishing a community standard that there won't be mobile syringe distribution within 1,000 feet of a school. And one of the things, maybe I can pepper in some of your questions, because you sent these to both Commissioner Moyer and I know you had verbally given us some questions as well. So one of the first questions that you'd ask was the final estimated fiscal impact for the policy as written. So at the last, the May 21st board meeting, Kirsten gave the approximate cost to enforce the ordinance between $131,000 to $144,000. We did received this morning like a new cost estimate. It's slightly higher. One of the issues that we've had is some of the previous estimates continue to look at the very first draft of the ordinance, which is different. And so I say we can circulate the most recent drafts, but again, at the last public board meeting, Kirsten gave us 131 to 144 with a 6-month ramp-up period, cost of about $155,000 to $58,000, and then an estimated of $77,000 to $82,000 for the second 6 months of the year once the program is up and running, to follow up with folks, track complaints, communicate with the complainants, and provide education and technical assistance. I say early this morning, or like right before the board meeting, we got another estimate that's slightly higher that we'll have some follow-up questions on, but I say that's the answer to that question.
Okay, thanks. And was the most recent estimate on the most recent language in the ordinance?
I say, when we had the meeting last week, in a public meeting, we got an estimate, which I believed was on the ordinance, which is what we had put out there. So it's a little bit frustrating to get a revised estimate right before the meeting, but you can speak to that.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. For the record, hi, Kirsten, I'm here. Rachel Banks, your Health Department Director. I use she, her, and hers. So the updated estimate has a range. And so what Kirsten prepared, which you can talk more about, does a number of things. So we know that you all are in work session and there's the policy in and of itself in the program hasn't landed yet. What we aim to get you all is the range of cost that we believe, based on all of the different conversations or pieces. Some of those things are in this current ordinance, some things are not. But we're kind of listening to the conversations that happen about waivers. Do we know exactly what that looks like? No, not yet. About, is there going to be a rulemaking? Do we know what that looks like? Not yet. Is it in this version of the ordinance? It's not. But the range, we thought, and kind of also based on, some of the things that we've heard in past budget, different issues of like, it's better to get all of the costs out now instead of going back later. That was really the approach here is, we know that folks are in conversations and that this isn't all the way solidified, but trying to give, of course, the range that Kirsten shared earlier, as well as if there were additional things that were needed, rulemaking or those sorts of things, this is what the guesstimate would be about that whole thing. We're also aware that that's may not be where things land, but would rather kind of do the whole thing now and then back down later as needed.
Can somebody say the dollar amount?
Is that me?
Well, I would just say, we did get a dollar amount, again, in a public meeting a week ago, right? After a conversation about how this would be implemented, and also correcting some of the previous estimates that were back based on like the very first draft. And so the number, well, we got a series of ranges. You can go ahead and provide them.
Yeah, Kirsten, if you have the most recent update, I think we're interested in hearing it.
I think they
Yeah. Oh, can folks hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, Kirsten Aird, she, her pronouns, Public Health Director, for the record. Yes, thank you. And I do just want to recognize the timing of this. I apologize. I'll just say that from the get-go, and appreciate the conversation and the continued questions. In thinking about to what Rachel had shared, the range right now is, and I could talk about what's built into that, is between, oops, I'm sorry, I'm on my laptop and looking at a couple different documents. It's 159 on the low end to 170 something on the higher end. So it's about $27,000 to $30,000 more. And again, there was something that I think, I'll just be honest, I was a little confused about and wasn't totally tracking, and then got some updated information from the commissioners team this morning around, my original proposal had a delayed enforcement. So knowing that the policy would be in place, but the activities of enforcement, of following up with complaints, of getting back in touch with people, of going out and seeing where people were identified as being within 1,000 feet, tracking down the organization, communicating, doing education. That was the original budget, had that in the second 6 months. So with my now better understanding that all of it would start from the get-go, I basically just took the phase 2 of the first recommendation and just said we would do that all year long, with now my understanding that we would want to do that all year long. So that was my error. I wasn't totally tracking and understanding on that. So that's really where the biggest shift comes. I didn't change the cost to materials or anything. I did mention a couple other types of things that could come up. May or may not cost more money. Signage was one of those examples. It tends to be a best practice when you're talking about policies that are tied to a distance. You don't have to do it. So, again, I was just trying to capture some of the ways in which I'm hearing the conversation go, not necessarily what's in policy, but what would be practiced that has a cost. And then also what is a little more, it's still a little unclear to me what our role would be, but I did include some conversations around waivers. Again, essentially, what this is it's somebody's job. It's a few somebody's jobs. It's a person's job, but it's in that range of being a full-time senior program specialist, essentially, for a year. But some of those confusions early on and some of the shifts are in now my clear understanding that we'd want all of this to start essentially as best we could at the beginning of the year when this passes.
Thank you, Kirsten.
And again, I apologize for my not fully tracking on that.
So and just to the cost, Chair, you'd ask about the proposed funding source. So when we have our work session this afternoon, I'll be introducing an amendment to pay for it, whether it's the high or the low number. We hope it's the lower number, but we'll be prepared to have a pay for. You also had asked about the effective date, and I will say that you had stated in the board meeting at 1 hour 36 minutes that the ordinance is passed. When it's passed, it goes into effect, which is our understanding. And we understand the department obviously has, you wait till the ordinance passes and then do the work. So we know there's some flex that just like day one, everything's not in place. That's not the expectation, obviously. Let's see.
So I guess my I would be interested in putting in an effective date of the ordinance. That's something that we could do through an amendment. And maybe work with the department to say, like, maybe if we give like a 3-month ramp up time, then we would be able to, say September 1st or something that it would start. And then we could hopefully have somebody hired and in place to do the work and have a little bit more sense. So that's something just from a, how it works.
Yeah. From my perspective, I don't see any issue with setting the community standard, knowing that there's going to be, I don't know that we need to delay setting a community standard. I mean, obviously, we can have that discussion, but.
Yeah, it's not the standard that I'm concerned about. It's if the expectation is that enforcement is going to start as soon as it's effective, and we don't have the people in place or the process in place or a really understanding of some of these things. Like if we get a request for a waiver right away and we don't know what that process is yet, that it is just going to be a delay anyway. So it's more like trying to make sure that we're ready for what the new responsibilities of the county will be and making sure that we're able to, fulfill what's being asked for in the policy.
So I just said my expectation is like we're setting a community standard, and when they're ready to enforce, again, I don't know that we can't set our community standard and be clear that the enforcement and the implementation is obviously going to follow. On the just exemption, just to be clear, it was really focused not on third parties, but on the city or another jurisdiction. So it's not contemplated that, again, we're setting a community standard. It's not contemplated that we're going to give a party a waiver into a school zone. Again, as Commissioner Moyer pointed out at the last meeting, there's plenty of other places that's not within 1,000 feet of a school.
So the waiver piece does come into play for the issue I raised about one of our facility-based sites that has had in the past had to operate out of their vehicle. And so I can work on language if it feels like we don't know what that process will be. I don't want one of our providers who is operating well to have penalties for a facility issue that pushes them into the van. So I can write something if that's helpful, unless we think there's an actual, because that to me would be something that would fall into a waiver process, if that's the way that they would need to go, because according to the current definitions, they would be in violation.
So I actually thought that you would bring that language to this work session, which was the point. So I'm trying to figure out exactly, so you're saying they have a facility that they're giving syringes out, but they bring a vehicle?
No, as I explained last time, it's that they have the facility, and there's been times where there's been facility issues that the window has been broken and they can't do their work. And so they've had to be out in their van, in their space, but because it's on wheels and not a permanent site, as we heard from the county attorney, it would be in violation the way the definitions are written. And so I want to make sure that that doesn't happen, and I'm happy to bring language. We're not actually doing any amendments to it, so I can bring it whenever I choose, but I will bring that language forward to make that exemption. My understanding was we would have that as part of the conversation today. So if there's not further movement on that and what the waiver will be, then I'll be happy to write an amendment for the ordinance.
Yeah, so I thought the purpose of the work session is for people to raise questions. Just let me finish. To raise questions, to bring potential language if they wanted it. So, because our next meeting is the second reading.
Yeah, that's correct. Our next meeting is the second reading on June 11th, and that is when we would be voting on any amendments that people are bringing forward.
So maybe you can turn that around and give us the draft that you're thinking of, because I guess I want to look at this, I would want to look at the specifics because I don't want to create a loophole if it's a like sort of one-off exception because of some particular exceptional circumstances with somebody's facility that happens to be with, I mean, they'd already have to be within 1,000 feet of a school. Should be requesting, like their physical facility would have to be within, that they're currently distributing needles from. They'd have to then be bringing a mobile unit on site, which seems like a pretty one-off situation. And if it's a one-off, I'm open to considering it, but I'm also not interested in creating what would be sort of a much bigger exemption that would make that would frankly water down the prohibition.
Nor am I. That's why I've been very specific about the issue and why we discussed it last time.
So it's an actual facility that's within 1,000 feet of a school?
Correct.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question? I don't know if that provider is available. I know we discussed if they were on their property, it's not mobile, but if they're in a like shared parking lot, do you know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm getting a lot of signs with faces, but maybe it might be worth having somebody respond to it directly. Yeah.
Can you? Can we ask them to?
We can have some invited testimony on this.
I invite you.
Part of the challenge last time. I was like,
All right, thank you so much for stepping in.
No problem, happy to be here. For the record, Haven Wheelock. The facility we're talking about is Outside In's Harm Reduction Clinic. We do operate a fixed site location within probably 100 to 200 feet of a school. We're in the middle of a block right near a middle school as well as Lincoln High School. The situation we're talking about is our building's old. It's in a church. It struggles. And occasionally, not often, we will use our mobile medical van that we use for services in Clackamas County. We will park that out front in the parking strip in the downtown location. So it is on county and city property, or I'm not sure who owns the property. But it would be, according to what was said last week, in violation of the rules.
So it's actually not in a parking lot?
No.
You'd be like on, what is that, 12th Avenue or?
Yes, on Main Street between 12th and 13th. And just for the record, we do communicate very clearly with the school about when things like that are happening. We work really closely with their security teams. We work very closely with our neighbors around, and we try and minimize those things happening. And sometimes the plumbing explodes.
Okay, we can make exceptions for plumbing explosions. So just so I understand, and I really appreciate you coming, I'm really aware for that. I had a child who went to that high school, so I know exactly sort of the route that students go on as they leave campus, since they have an open campus. So are you saying that just like normally you'd be operating within the facility, except for when there's a plumbing explosion or something like that? So it's like, it's more like a rare episode or an unusual episode versus?
100%. We prefer to be inside where there's air conditioning and running water than operating off a van when we can be.
Okay. Super helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so it sounds like so it sounds like we just need something that recognizing
That's like carefully crafted. And I think I would just say the expectation, since it's, because at first it was a parking lot, but now this is like in a public space, that the expectation, as with everybody else, that keeping access to the sidewalk and all the other things that we hopefully expect of everyone else that would be, who operate or who are in public spaces versus a private parking lot, would be at play.
Okay, so Commissioner Singleton, are you going to take lead in working on the amendment? Okay, great, thank you. All right, great. So there were a couple other.
Did you want?
All right. Did you have a?
So you could also ask, you said the CIO has recommended that public health study the issue as to whether an ADA may be feasible here to determine whether a 1,000-foot restriction would prevent certain individuals with disabilities from receiving harm reduction services and identify mitigative solutions. My Chief of Staff, Brian Hockaday, already had emailed the Chief of Staffs. This safe school zones policy does not create criminal or civil penalties for the distribution of needles. This is what we already went through about what specific tools the county has, especially as it relates to state law. So we've been advised by the county attorney's office about this is setting a community standard, but it's not creating criminal or civil penalties. That's not the county's. Given the framework we work in with the state, we don't have the ability to do that. And that, again, this is a bridge to state action, so the state lawmakers can, of course, set their own standards. Okay. I think it's important to note the paragraph that's highlighted before in the chair's, the communication that came from the attorney, that the Lewis County ordinance was vastly more restrictive, and, quote, there's no indication within the court's opinion that 750 feet restriction would have alone established a substantiated ADA claim. We repeatedly met with county council, and as county council always does, they advise on risks, and we're saying we think we have a very low risk situation. And again, we appreciate, as we dove into it at the beginning, getting advice from the county council and believe that there's a low risk. We believe there's a low risk. I'm not going to speak for the attorneys. And that that study is not needed.
Okay. I appreciate the conversations with the attorneys, and I have seen the email that Rob sent out around that. I think the other question, this might also be a question for county attorneys. It's the enforcement section where it says that we might file an action in civil court or circuit court, excuse me, to enjoin further commission of any prohibited activities and may recover all attorney's fees, costs, and disbursements related to such enforcement. What does that look like? Like, what exactly does that look like in terms of the county's action on that?
Thank you, Chair. So this would be the county attorney's office working with the public health folks and then any factual circumstances we have to bring a complaint in court. And we would be asking the court to find a violation of the county ordinance and to enjoin or to stop or to order to stop the individual or individuals or businesses that were engaging in the prohibitive conduct.
Okay. And that's the mechanism then for stopping the activities?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you.
I also, just for those individuals who didn't participate in the last conversation, want to note that, not to speak for you, Kirsten, but I think you spoke about just the philosophy of the health department is starting with education to make sure that people are aware of it. And from my office's standpoint, it's always like we are going to assume people are going to want to comply. So right now there isn't an ordinance or a community standard or a prohibition, but when we have one, my assumption is people are going to want to apply, and the health department, as they do with I think many of the other public health issues we have, seek to educate so that people actually can comply with the law, because there's nothing worse than wanting to comply with the law but not knowing how or what the rules are. So if people missed that from the last meeting, so we're not going straight to the legal hammer or an injunction, but really starting with, we think it's a community standard that most of the providers and individuals in the community will comply with, and it's part of the county's job to share information.
Great, thank you. And Kirsten, just to add, so, and then that education piece, because I do remember you speaking to that last week, that's included in the cost estimate that you put together?
Yes, it is. It's basically education / small enforcement. I mean, enforcement, but it's about educating.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, in the spirit of community standards, one of the questions that I asked yesterday and last week is just the level of engagement with the folks that are doing the distribution here within the community. Initially, when I first heard of the volunteers from PPOP, I heard that there were just some random group of people that come in and distribute and serve our communities, and there was like no coordination. What was the level of engagement with them in drafting the current ordinance that you two present or provided?
So just to be clear, this isn't targeted at, this applies to anybody who has a mobile syringe distribution. So that
I just use them as an example because they.
So, and when we drafted it, also to just sort of set the framework for people, is we used the state statute of drafting it. So we didn't start from scratch. We used the state legislative proposal as the draft. I did participate in a town hall with Senator Reynolds, in which there were representatives of PPOP there. And again, when we were drafting the ordinance, it was very much drafted, as we related initially, drafted along the lines as close as possible with using the county tools and what we can do to align with the state statute, which we hope and anticipate will replace this bridge method.
So there hasn't been any intentional conversations with anyone that's distributing currently outside of the?
So they participated in a town hall.
Just in the town hall, okay. So I had the opportunity, I've been reading the feedback or the testimonies, and then I talked to some of the folks that have been doing the distributions, and they said a couple of things. One, there's a need within the community as far as they broke down harm reduction and just the overall need. And the question, I guess, for the board is just like, how do we provide, I mean, I would even ask them if there's anybody here, is there a way, I mean, one, why are you distributing? Are you intentionally distributing around schools? Why can't we just tell you, why does it have to, why are we providing direction through an ordinance? Why are we not coordinating with them as far as providing the services here within our community? Because there's a current need, and why are we not depending on the health department to come back with a recommendation?
So I think.
Fleshing this out here. Because I'm not an expert, and I would have liked to.
So one of the things I would say, because we asked the question, is we can get you the numbers, lots of needles being distributed. So that's not an issue, and there's lots of providers.
Yeah, and he mentioned, Mike, if you can come down and provide, did I speak with you on the phone? Yes, if you can come down. So we talked about that as far as things being distributed, and then there should be an extra step as far as cleanup. So as far as cleaning up the things, and then also figuring out different spots to distribute. I think this is a system issue, and we should probably, I'm not an expert, I'm new to this. Could you speak to that, what we discussed yesterday?
Sure, happy to. For the record, my name is Michael Gilbert. So to the first question about our mobile outreach services positioned with respect to proximity to schools, the answer is they are not. They go where the unmet need is present in the community. I'll also say that in the particular case of the Stadium Hood area operations, after speaking with the members of that group, despite some hostility, our program left that neighborhood over a year ago. So society's operating as it should in the absence of this ordinance. Other questions? I'm happy to.
The other issue is just the cleanup after.
Oh, sure.
What recommendation?
So we do provide sharps containers for disposal of syringes. We do bring those for direct distribution, contrary to some of the testimony that's been given in prior sessions. I've walked around the neighborhood and picked up syringes during our outreach and after. I used to do that on Saturdays when around the Northwest Children's Theater building when that was still operating. So it does happen, certainly not to the satisfaction or to the elimination of public drug litter, which again preceded our presence in the neighborhood and has persisted long after our departure from the neighborhood. So we're glad to collaborate with other programs, including Metro's, sanitation resources access programs, Sharps Boxes distribution, or fixed site Sharps Box disposal. They're good evidence-based solutions for public drug litter, and proximity-based restrictions on public health outreach programs are not among those.
I guess my chief concern is just once ordinance, I'm supportive of safety in general, but what does it address the problem, or not even the problem, just the challenge that we're facing as a society? I don't know if it does. And that's one of the reasons why I asked for the work session, and I really want to challenge us all to be here to figure out what that solution is. So invite Stadium Hood to come up, and you and us to figure out what is that path forward. Because as it is now, it's.
I just can I?
Please.
Can I?
Please.
I'm just going to ask.
It's a work session.
Yeah, just while you're up here. But before you moved, wasn't there a sustained set of complaints by Cathedral School, Chapman School, and MLC parents about the distribution and the needles that were left?
Sustained and direct? No. We saw some parents from Cathedral School. I personally haven't seen any correspondence from the leadership at Chapman School or the MLC.
So
Okay.
I'm sorry, we are not having shout outs from the audience, so I appreciate that. Well, people have had opportunity to provide public testimony today, and this was an invited person that
So-
the board wanted.
If I may
You were
continue,
aware,
I'll
you
say-
were
I'll
aware
say
that
too-
parents were concerned about the distribution? I mean, Friends of Cooch Park have been around for a long time. Like I say, as a former school board member, I was contacted by Chapman and also MLC parents. I know Cathedral Park parents have also contacted me. It seemed like it was non-responsive. I appreciate that you have moved. And I guess I would ask, if you moved because you're going to be 1,000 feet away, are you opposed to having a 1,000-foot prohibition around a school? And
I
if
don't
so,
think
what
there's-
would be the issues of why you'd be opposed to a prohibition?
I don't think there's evidence or observation-based reason to establish a 1,000-foot proximity prohibition. I'll say that certainly people are concerned about drug litter in our communities. I am among those people, and as I testified last week, that is a persistent and pervasive problem around Portland. In places where no mobile syringe services program operates, we've operated, or PPOP operated, in that same location continuously for a decade, from 2015 onwards. Concerns that were raised around public drug use and public drug litter in that area around, 2023, 2024, when the Northwest Cooch Coalition came together, later Stadium Hood, later Friends of Cooch Park. Unless there's an 8-year lag in the impact of mobile syringe services programs, then I think that the association between the operation of that program and the presence of public drug litter is spurious. And if the presence of public drug litter persists, despite our absence for more than a year, then again, this further strains the assertion. So I understand that people are concerned. I would like there to be fewer discarded syringes in the neighborhood. I would also like the prevalence of HIV and Hep C to be lower so that any needle sticks that do occur from the needles that persist in the neighborhood are less likely to harm any child who should encounter them. So if we want to reduce the risk associated with drug litter, we reduce the prevalence of Hep C and HIV.
So you're opposed to a prohibition of 1,000 feet around a school?
I think it's an arbitrary distance based on a tenuous, if not just completely spurious, assertion that the presence of a mobile syringe service program increases the presence of drug litter or the prevalence of public drug use.
Okay, I'm going to
That's helpful.
turn it
Thank you.
over to,
I was just saying.
can I? Yeah, more, yes.
Okay.
No,
I have a couple of things. First is, I think we're forgetting what this ordinance does or does not do. Everyone can have their opinion. We will vote on should mobile syringe sites be allowed to operate within 1,000 feet. But the remedy really, unless it is violated fragrant, I just said that wrong. Thank you. Fragrant, oh my God, I said it wrong again.
Flagrantly.
Thank you. Is a letter. So like, people are not gonna be jailed for this. I mean, if we were to pursue legal action, that would require a board action. Like, that's a pretty, I'm not saying it could never, ever happen, but like, that is not a one-time or an accidental instance. This community, and also the city of Portland, which is the overwhelming majority of my district, supported that we should not be selling marijuana within 1,000 feet of a school. Not because marijuana shops open their doors and don't check IDs, but it was a community decision that there needs to be a buffer for certain things in our community. People can agree with that, they cannot agree with that. I do agree with that. My child went to MLC, and I did see a very significant, it's not about the last year, I don't know, he is now at Ida B. Wells, but I don't think anybody who was around Cooch Park over the last decade didn't know what an absolutely serious situation that was. And I have tremendous support for harm reduction, access to recovery. I will go toe-to-toe with anybody about how hard I fight for people's access to treatment and to stay safe. And so that is not what this is about to me. I don't think we're talking about children. I'm just going to be honest. There are conversations that I don't really want to have with my kindergartner about what's going on. And I'm not saying that that is being promoted by any organization, but I think it is profoundly naive to try to say, by having a needle distribution site, we in no way contribute to people openly using drugs in the vicinity. Of course they do. That's just, to me, not a very feasible argument. And I also think the argument that 1,000 feet around a school is going to be so prohibitive to having access to the people who need this, when that is the same bar we have for marijuana shops, and I swear I can see a marijuana shop from anywhere I stand. So I just feel like we're losing touch with, like, this is not an all or nothing. This is not anti-needle distribution. This is also not lock people up for doing this, or there's no value in harm reduction. This is a conversation about, is there an impact that we are choosing as a community to say should not be around children? And I want to bring up our deputy DA who's in the room, because I've had this conversation about how these type of activities can impact the safety of community. Would you please be willing to join us? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. You can head out. Thank you. Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
For the record, my name is Mariel Mota. I'm a Chief Deputy at the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office. I'm happy to take any questions.
My question, I know I've had a brief conversation with DA Vasquez, but around, from your office's perspective, what have you seen? What is the feedback that you've gotten from community related to this topic and the locations of mobile syringe distribution?
Thank you. So I will just start by saying I know that DA Vasquez supports this amendment without reservation. I think one of the reasons for that is, and this kind of goes unspoken in the conversations that I've heard in this space around this, is that it matches identically the state statute that prohibits distribution of drugs within 1,000 feet of a school. And when you're dealing with situations where you're attracting people who are using drugs and often sharing drugs, the law doesn't discriminate between subsistence dealing and profit dealing. So when you have somebody who's within 1,000 feet of a school who's subsistence dealing or sharing their drugs, they're technically committing a delivery within 1,000 feet of a school, which is penalized at a much greater rate than it would be if it was not within 1,000 feet of a school. So that is one sort of overlap between these things where I think, as has been mentioned by several of the commissioners, there have been community standards established where we want to protect school children or want to protect the school environments from certain kinds of conduct, to your point about marijuana. What we have seen and what I have personally seen as leading our neighborhood and public-facing unit, the Strategic Prosecution Unit, is repeated and sustained neighborhood complaints for over a decade around open-air drug use and being more prevalent in areas where we have harm reduction services delivering, drug accoutrement to people using in public spaces. And that is not to, disparage or speak negatively of those who are more impacted and more likely to be using drugs in public. If you're housed, you have a private space to use drugs. Addiction is less visible. So we do understand the disproportionate impacts that this issue has across our unhoused community or across poverty-stricken communities. And I will say that that is a great concern of us, which is why our office is focused so heavily on connecting people to treatment and on treatment being meaningful once it's accessed. So from our perspective, there is a great lot of reasons why an initiative like this should be taken up by the county. And we have seen, more directly to your question, we have seen sustained complaints from community members for years and years and years about these programs moving into a space, it bringing traffic that brings other types of low-level livability crimes and other public hygiene and public safety issues with it, among which is obviously the litter caused by syringes and foil contaminated with fentanyl around the neighborhood where children are walking on it or picking it up. And obviously, I think most of you have children and are well aware that the younger a kid is, the more likely they are to engage with a dangerous substance, because an older kid will see something bright orange and sort of know that maybe that's not something they're supposed to touch. A child will see it and be, a toddler will be very attracted to that, and everything goes into their mouths. They don't wash their hands regularly. They don't always tell you when they've picked something up. So that has been a primary concern that we have heard from community members, is that the youngest children are the ones most likely to be impacted.
So thank you so much for being here. So I just want to recognize we have a budget work session also scheduled for this morning. We're getting close to 11 a.m. So I'm going to do like 4 more minutes and then we'll wrap this up. So Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Yes, yeah.
If I could, I don't want to lose the piece that you said around what are we doing around cleanup, and it doesn't necessarily have to be solved as a part of this ordinance, but I hear that question. I agree, I have the same question, and I think we have to work with our city partners, all of our cities, to figure this one out, so I would love to keep working with you on that component of the problem.
So we'll say just to that.
Wait, Commissioner Broome-Edwards, Commissioner Jones-Dixon has just been waiting very patiently.
Yeah, the other question that I sent over last week, or a couple weeks ago, was just K through 12, why not include the preschool for all schools if you just share further, or daycares in general, as far as the ordinance is concerned, just the thinking behind that. Yeah. Do you want to take it more?
Yeah, so I asked to remove that for a couple of reasons. We never discussed just preschool for all sites, but we did discuss preschools, which, having worked on the regulatory side at the state, is incredibly dense. So I do think there were a couple of issues. One, I worried it started getting into being so restrictive there would actually not be locations to do needle exchange. But the second is that's not information that is readily available. So if I'm trying to be in compliance and I'm being responsible about where I'm doing my needle exchange, I've got to be able to have access to the information of where I can and cannot be. And licensed childcare, one, are we doing licensed? Are we doing certified? Are we doing registered? Like, that's its own regulatory ridiculousness. Yeah. But visually, you can't see them all. They're in people's houses. They're, inside a building that you can't, so you wouldn't, it's not fair to ask somebody to follow an ordinance that they cannot get the information to comply with. And that's, it really is not information that the public can just get, which kind of makes sense. I'm not sure the state wants to post every home-based childcare facility's address. You could do a Freedom of Information Act, I'm sure, but also the change of these businesses going in and out of business.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's not that I don't get it. And it's not that I don't think that population isn't vulnerable, because I do. I just think, I don't know how you would operationalize that, where K-12 buildings don't change as frequently.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Again, just to build off what I said, we need to continue to intentionally work with providers and build out our system of care. But we can move on to the conversation.
I was just going to add also, in the theory of we're going to try and track as closely as we could to the state, knowing that we have a sunset that we've added in when the state passes it. The state doesn't have it in there, so it would have gone beyond and sort of created the additional issues that Commissioner Moyer, but it's not that we don't think preschoolers should be protected as well. It's just there was a practical reason, Commissioner Moyer's statement, but also this is a bridge and we're trying to track as closely versus making like a whole new thing.
Great, thank you. And thank you, DA Mota. That
Okay.
was helpful.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm going to wrap this up. I appreciate this. My final question was just, I want to be clear for legislative intent. So there is not a waiver process that's envisioned with the ordinance. When you talk about like another public body, it's as if that refers to if like Metro or the city or somebody else had allowed a mobile station to be there.
Right, that's what.
Okay. I just want to make sure, like, in terms of implementation of what the county needs to do, we're setting up a waiver process is not something that needs to happen. Okay, that's great. Well, thank you all. So we're going to consider this issue again on June 11th when we have the second reading of the ordinance of creating safe school zones in Multnomah County. With that, I am going to close out the meeting of our regular board meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for, well, it says 10:30 a.m. We're going to say at 11:10 a.m. for budget work session number 19. There being no further business, we are adjourned. All right, are we ready? All right, good morning and welcome to Multnomah County Board of Commissioners' 19th budget work session. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. And anybody presenting today, please state your name for the record before speaking or responding to questions. So I'm just going to open this up. Christian, I know you had some kind of level setting things that you wanted to share with us. So I'll turn it over to you before we jump back into the board amendments.
Thank you. Good morning. Christian Elkin, County Budget Director. I use she, her pronouns. I just wanted to let you know that I have handed out the board summary and the board amendment package as of May 27th. Those are up on our website as well. But I just wanted to highlight a couple of things on the summary package for you all. First, you'll see, like for Amendment 2C, and Amendments 17B and 25, there's little green boxes there in the other funds. That was the discussion we had yesterday about the Medicaid funding, where we're bringing in Medicaid funding, and then there's a little footnote at the end of it. So just wanted to daylight that's not, it doesn't mean anything beyond we're adding Medicaid revenue there, but wanted to make sure that it was highlighted for you all. And then there are a couple of amendments that are still in that determination phase. So and this I'm referring to the offsets. So there is the Sun School amendment that the offset is countywide internal administration and support, FTE. There's not a minus FTE in the column yet because I'm waiting to get a little bit more information on that. So there's a couple of places on the offsets where we need to add the FTE reduction because I want everybody to have that. And so when we get that, hopefully by the end of this week, we'll add those back into these amendments. But I just wanted to provide that because you all are seeing it and then you see it and it's something different. And then the final change, Commissioner Moyer, is to amendment number 24. That's the CARES amendment. I failed to, when we were restoring those positions, to recognize that the 2 CARES positions, it's 2 positions, but it only equals 1.90 FTE. So your amendment went from 4 FTE to 3.9 FTE. But if you were wondering why it's different than what you thought it was, I just wanted to daylight that as well. And with that, those are the changes that we've made to date.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Any questions for Christian on any of that?
I don't think it's a Christian question. It might be a health department or DCHS question. I see on Singleton, she's referencing on 2C, the Medicaid 1115 housing related to social needs waiver, which I'm thrilled we have figured out how to actually really get that working. I'm curious about the rules of that and could that be a funding source for recovery housing, at least the 6 months of recovery housing, or, and this is where it's also health department, or the 1115 SUD waiver, which I don't know how that ever ended up playing out in reality. I think that one's had more issues, but could I ask our friends?
Yes, and I think that's actually DCHS who's managing
They're doing
the
the
Medicaid.
first one.
Yes, they're doing the first one.
I don't think anyone here is doing the second, and I think the reason is it's like impossible to do, but I would love it to be wrong.
So can we have Director Pearl come forward? I don't even know that there's a real question for you at this point. I know.
I'm asking a wildly technical question about the 1115 housing related to social or health-related needs, which we are using for some housing. What are the rules of that? And I'm asking because I'm wondering if that could be a source of funding for recovery housing. And then are you aware and have you ever been able to access the 1115 SUD waiver housing piece? And what are the rules to that, which you may not have done?
Can I get that hall pass now? No, just kidding. Rachel Pearl, she, her pronouns, Director, Department of County Human Services. That happened fast. So for HRSN 1115 waiver for housing, so they have to have a current landlord. So it can't be used. So part of the challenge that we've seen, which we've talked to you all about before, was how long it was taking for a while for them to get through eligibility, is that some folks had ended up losing their housing, which made them ineligible. So they have to be currently housed. And that's the way that, that is the way that waiver was ultimately designed. And so then they can receive up to 6 months of rent support and utilities, and some other supportive services as well. And I don't know if anyone else on our team knows about the SUD. We can find that out, but I don't know that I am familiar with that.
Anthony, do you know about the 1115 SUD waiver and how that can be utilized? I'm sorry, this is asking people to have knowledge on the top of their head. So if the answer is, we'll get back to you, that is also an acceptable answer.
We can get back. Okay, so behavioral health will get back on that one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Director Pearl. So we're now going to jump back into where we left off yesterday, which was on workforce and employment services amendments. We walked through the amendments. We heard, how they were set up and what the intention was. There was information that was shared by I believe it was by Christian on around some more details around employment services, history of pay, of investment at the county for that, as well as more details on specific programs under the employment services umbrella for both funded and unfunded in my proposed budget. So we did not get a chance to hear from departments about impact statements and offsets, impacts of offsets. So I was going to invite HSD up to start talking through some of those.
Good morning, everyone. For the record, Anna Plum, she, her pronouns, Deputy Director for Multnomah County Homeless Services Department. These are not in employment organized order, so where would you like me to start?
Great. So we had amendment, and I don't have my handy dandy one from yesterday, but it was 2C. Shoot. A phone a friend is coming down. Here we go.
I've got it. It's 1D, 14C, and 31.
Yes, thank you. 1D, 14C, and 31.
Got it. Okay. Let me shuffle my papers and get to 1D. So 1D pulls from a couple places, so I can speak specifically to the HSD impacts, but there are other departments therein. On the impact of adding back the employment services, that would add back 140 employment placements and employment services for 950 people. This, as written, what it reduces in the HSD budget is funding for the operations of the North Portland Day Center. That day center, that would reduce the number of day centers that we're funding in the community from 7 to 6, and that would end local access to day center services, at least temporarily, in St. John's. Over the first 3 quarters of this year, that center has served 265 unique folks. It's provided 42 shelter referrals and 55 housing assessments. We did have a note from the health department that loss of staff and peer support, they have concerns about operational risk to the health clinic that's in the same building.
Okay, can you slow down just a little bit? Thank you. Okay.
Well, it's also all in here.
Oh, yeah, okay, great.
I have a good reading voice.
Sorry. Okay, so the health department. You said the health department also had an impact?
Yeah, so they noted some potential operational concerns for the North Portland Health Clinic, which isn't in the same building. They had previous issues with folks sort of congregating at the clinic rather than at the day center and not having the support of the day center staff to help people sort of move along or come inside and access services. So they did note. And I do want to note that we recently invested $884,000 in this day center to improve the building and get it open.
Okay.
One of the questions I asked of the day, but I'm not clear on the answer. I think the response was when I said, are we going to ask about the lease, we own it, and the question was, we're just going to keep it. And maybe this is a question for DCA, like why would we keep it?
Because it's the health clinic. It's the same building.
Yeah, so it's essentially a storefront in a larger building that we own as the county. So that is a quite DCA question of what they would normally do if we cease using a space that has been developed. That I can't speak to that.
Right, we have 800,000 into it. I guess it's just like.
Yes.
Is there some other? Are we envisioning some other use of it?
Well, they plan to use it as a day center.
Yeah, so there, because this is a brand-new amendment, there hasn't been any conversation with DC over potential uses of this in terms of what other needs for county services. But the building itself will remain in county ownership because the vast majority of the square footage of that building is for health clinic purposes.
So I will say that's not entirely true. There's been some conversation about potentially it being a PFA site or some other type of county use. So there hasn't been anything more concrete, but there has been some discussion about other potential uses.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
We have not been discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
I just have one question, and Elkin, this is for you, so it can come as follow-up, but my intention is only to do it as one time only, even though I know it's ongoing funding, because the desire is to find a location that actually can provide adequate services. And so if I need to make any changes or notes in the amendment to clarify that, I'll be happy to do so.
Can I ask a question about the, in the chair's budget, the unfunded employment programs, the TANF money? I'm confused by that because in my mind, TANF is a state program administered. So what are our dollars in this? Or are we calling it TANF, but it's not TANF? Like, what about TANF?
So this is a WSI program, and there's actually two lines that kind of work together, which is why in the document we sent you, there's kind of like darker banded lines around those two. It is employment services for adults and families, and there's sort of two pieces. One is the employment services and the staffing, and one is like rent assistance for eviction prevention and housing placement for folks in those employment services. I'm going to be frank, I don't know why it says TANF there, and I will follow up on that particular.
Because the line item above that is rental assistance.
Yeah,
which
so
I
those two
assume
go
is
together,
for
yeah.
people participate.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so if I could just get an explanation of.
Okay, so a friend is chatting me, sometimes that happens. They're TANF eligible clients, that is how they are selecting clients.
But are they receiving TANF and therefore have access to TANF jobs and services?
I'll have to follow up.
Okay, thank you.
I have this is a question maybe for Christian. And just a clarification, just so I know what the rules are. I thought in the past, we had been told that commissioners couldn't like zero something out or we couldn't add something in. Like I decided I'd like a library in Park Rose, frankly. But like you couldn't specify that in the budget. Tell me what the rules are.
And so I think you're referring to what Commissioner Singleton just said about wanting to turn this into a one-time only reduction.
It's nothing related to that, it's just like more the process.
A future, I mean, it would still be subject to, so by making it one-time only just means that the services would be funded one-time only, and then when we do that, we would return the funding, the ongoing funding back to the department, kind of like with the vacancies we did last year, right? But they would still have to go through their budgeting process and bring that proposal forward if it were, if it rose to the level of engagement that they determined was needed for the programming. So it would still need to go through a budget process. It's more, I would say, in this instance, a signaling of the funding is only going to be removed from the day services for 1 year, with the anticipation, the commissioner's anticipation of it being returned to those services, but it would still need to be part of the budget process.
About it. I'm just going back to like the Blanchet House and Rosehaven that first year where we wanted to provide like day services, which the county hadn't in the past, or provide funding for day services, and we were told we couldn't specify like a provider in the budget amendment. So I'm just trying to understand what the difference is.
Oh, yeah, that's true. This is a county-run facility, though, so I think that's different than we as a board should not say like a specific provider, but this isn't a provider.
So if it's a county thing, we could. I'm just.
Were we specifying a provider in that discussion? I might have missed it. I didn't think we were specifying a provider. I thought we were referring to a service, not a provider.
Right.
Well, there is a provider at the site.
Yeah, but that's,
But
yeah, but it doesn't.
nothing in the amendment specifies that funding would be returned to that provider. I don't think that's what was being said, but if I'm wrong, please
No.
correct
Yeah.
me.
What I'm trying to figure out is just like whether commissioners, again, because I thought when we went through that whole thing with Rosehaven and Blanchet House.
And by B-Lakes. I mean, there's
Yeah,
been several.
there was a lot, because that was when, ironically, we had $100 million to spend. But I thought that we were told we couldn't like specify, and so you're saying that you think the distinction is that it's.
There's no provider talked about, this is a service that's being provided at a certain location, but none of the decisions or the amendments talk about a certain provider who might be providing those services.
Okay. So as long as it's not about the provider.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it in terms of like how shelters were identified to be closed in the next fiscal year. It talks about specific locations that will be closed, but it doesn't talk about providers who might be providing the services at those locations.
Right, but by extension, I would have thought like that, say I disagreed with a shelter that was closed, that you couldn't go in and say, this shelter will stay open.
I think if I can jump in real quick.
Okay, thank you, Jenny Metzger.
I think
Provide some clarity.
we're dealing with a couple different concepts here. So the concepts related to the providers is, the easiest way I can explain that and quickly, is that this budget process is to allocate funds. It does not supplant or overrule our procurement or our contracting policies and practices. Therefore, in the budget process, we don't say we're going to give money to you, because we might not be able to fulfill that as part of our contracting and procurement process. So that's about the naming providers. We're also talking about here how we're going to be allocating dollars to county operations or facilities. And so here, this board could say, we're no longer going to fund operations at the Multnomah building. That's the building we're sitting in. And we could do that through the budget process. The budget process, however, would not change the services that are provided, where we're going to go, how we're going to do our service and whatnot. So we keep those separate. Does that help at all?
Again, I was trying to follow the rules. So it's the specification about a specific set of services in a location, not the actual who's providing it. And I don't even know who the provider is, but that's the larger principle.
I think you've got it.
Okay.
And I will say, I mean, and this is just, I think related to what you're saying, that I think this amendment specifies services at a certain location. I think another way it could have been done was to say, I want to decrease day services at the county by this amount. And then the department could have looked at all of the different day centers and post-budget made a determination of which one made the most sense to close. So another way to have done it would just to make it like a budget decision only about the funding, not this. That's not what happened with this amendment. That would have been another way to do it.
We did the ads of the day centers at the time, which is we're adding money for day centers, and then the department said, here's where it will go, right? Sort of like.
There's a little of both there. There was some board direction on where to put that money in the past.
But I don't think Christian let us write the
But
names.
we are not doing that anymore. We are being much better, much better players. Okay. Great, so that was amendment 1D. Now we also have 14D.
Okay. So 14D, it's on page 35 of your packet, if that's helpful to you.
That is very helpful, thank you.
So this also restores employment programs. And again, this has a couple different impacts. I will speak to the HSD impacts. This similarly adds back the full amount. So it's the same additions, which is, again, 140 employment placements and 950 people served with employment services. The reduction here is being taken from program offer 30-10, which is safety on the streets, which is our primary outreach program offer. The amount of $804,000 is a 22% reduction in the outreach funds for that program offer. Those are the street-based outreach programs that serve the entire county, including East County and Gresham. So based on the current program metrics for what we would do with that funding, this would result in 234 fewer people served, 147 fewer folks connected to services and information, 92 fewer shelter exits, because part of that is referral to shelter and exit, and then 39 fewer positive housing exits from outreach programs. I do want to note that our program prioritizes both geographic coverage across the county and population-specific outreach programs. So we have zones that we identified across the county, and those zones are served by one or more providers to provide outreach there. We also have culturally specific and mental health-oriented outreach programs. With this reduction, one decision we might do is to reduce one of those population-specific outreach teams in order to keep geographic coverage. So that could result in loss of a culturally specific outreach provider with this amount of reduction, or behavioral health.
Okay, any questions about that? If not, I'm going to invite DCA up to talk about the impact on the other offset from this, which is the vector control facility.
So how are we doing this? Are we going by amendment by each portion?
We've grouped, board staff has grouped them by category. So we're going to just walk through the different amendments in employment services right now.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. And so there's one more after this one as well.
There was one more, didn't you? You had the same offset.
In a different offer, yes.
Yeah. Right, but I'm trying to figure out what way you're doing this. Are we going through the, like each, you're doing the Homeless Service Department for each of the amendments?
So I'm just walking through the amendments, all having to do with the employment services. So right now we're on yours, 14D, and going these offsets. And then, so DCA can come up, and then we'll go to 31. I mean, if it's the exact same offset for 31, Anna, you could probably just say ditto for 31, and we don't have to walk through all of that again.
So who's
it's not. It's
who's talking about the vacancy savings then in each of these? There is vacancy savings. There's vacancy savings in the first two.
So I don't see vacancy savings as in terms of program offers for 14D.
I think it was in the first.
It's in 1D, and then I have a segment.
Okay, so we can talk about that we'll have Chris come up then to talk about vacancy savings in a second.
I'm sorry, can we just finish the one that we're on and then go back so that we're not just jumping all over the place?
Yep, just waiting for Tracy to come up here to talk about that.
Hello, everybody. Tracy Massey, Department Director for County Assets. So I think the offset that we're talking about is related to capital funding for vector control. And thank you for having that handy. The impact of this, and this one is included in several of them, we had requested one-time only funding for the county to pay for the part of the county's portion of relocating that facility. And this will be a multi-year project, and there's a county portion and a city portion. And we had requested funding in the next year to begin to pay for the county's portion. The impact of not paying for it in this next fiscal year is that the county's full portion whatever the final amount might be, recognizing we don't yet have an identified facility that we're moving forward on, although there's one that we're very close, will be that then the county is going to have to fund the whole thing in the next fiscal year. And just recognizing that, money is tight and we don't have a solid funding source for that. So that's the impact. I think we've said that the city has agreed to pay their portion up front through our conversation with them. So that's how we would be able to move forward in the next year.
What is the estimated total county contribution?
Based on our estimates, and again, we don't have an agreed upon site, the whole project, 14 million, the county's portion, 8.
Okay. Thank you.
This may be an offline, but I would love if there's something in writing with the city about fronting dollars as opposed to in conversation, so that.
We do have a direct IGA. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you. And Commissioner Rome-Edwards, you're right. I did skip over some of the pay-fors in the first one that we talked about. Yes, but that was because I wasn't open to the actual amendment. So now I have them all set, we're all organized, and we'll go back to that one. So why don't we?
The paper shuffling is the logistical nightmare.
I know it is. So there's like so much paper. Okay, so why don't we go back to 1D and look at some of these additional pay-fors in this. So we do have, we don't need to cover the revenue amendments. We do have vacancy savings, so I'm going to ask Chris Neal to come down and talk to those. You guys are welcome to step back. But I know. All right. Good morning, COO Neal.
Yep, I was just letting it all play out, letting it all play out. So the FTE, the vacancy savings, I wanted to just talk to that a little bit. I absolutely get where we are trying to go on that, and I agree on what the intent is. But I do think it's responsible for me to call out what those risks are. Some of them have already been mentioned up here, but I wanted to make sure to be clear, even more clear about what some of those risks may be. Service delivery, of course, burnout, of course, operations, of course, and revenue generating positions. I would prefer that if we go about doing this, that we do it in a more thoughtful proposal way, meaning instead of just doing a blanket freeze of everything without thinking through what some of those positions are, I would prefer that we approach it in a way where we're looking at what those 22 positions are, whether they're revenue generating, whether they're critical positions, et cetera, and then do a proposal after that versus just a blanket freeze without thinking through what those positions are, and then we can come back and talk about how that can be implemented throughout the year. I'm not sure if there's other things you want me to speak to on that, or if there's a conversation that we want to have. I feel like you all have kind of talked about that already up here, but I just want to make sure that I said it as well, because that's the way I see it too. D2 is here. Okay, I'm ready, ma'am.
Just a question is, like the health department, for example, went through and showed in their presentation which positions might need to be held for bumping and all of those components, and then which ones were vacant. And not every presentation had the same. And so it is really hard to know as commissioners what things need to be held and what don't. So if there's another approach to this, I would love that. And maybe it happens through you and your team, as opposed to me trying to figure it out with each department.
That's legit. Okay.
So while we're on the topic, are we talking about individual amendments, or are we?
So we're talking about Amendment 1D. We're back to Amendment 1D.
So I have a similar amendment, but it's for a lot less. Do you have any point of view on the 2 quarters, which would be hiring people halfway through the year versus the first quarter?
The approach would still be the same. So no, I don't think I have a completely different answer on that. Moreover, what I'm just asking is this blanket idea of just freezing without knowing what it is that we're freezing, how long, whether they're mission critical, whether they're revenue generated, which fund they're coming from. What I'm just asking for is a thorough review of that first, and then we can point out where maybe those freezes can happen throughout the year or not.
So I took a very minimalist approach, and I think I said yesterday, and I didn't put anything from the health department in, and I did ask last week for both programmatic reasons, but also potentially for an amendment for the general fund and also the other funds, which there are 189 positions, and as of this morning, I have 17. I would be reluctant to just say, go do the process without actually having the question answered about the vacancies, like how long they've been open. I feel like I've been asking for this, and instead of just like, okay, we're not going to do it, go ahead and do it, I'd like to see the information, because again, I also was interested in it from a programmatic standpoint. If we have 50 positions in our clinics that haven't been filled for a whole year, like, I think that's a relevant piece of information for the commission to know, because like, why are we holding on to that? So I would really appreciate, and I've asked multiple times to just provide us that information of like, what are those 189 positions and how long have they been open?
Okay, that can be part of the analysis that I'm speaking to. Oh, sorry.
I would like the information. I'd like the information today, because frankly, then tomorrow's not a work session. Then there's nothing on Monday. Then we're going to Tuesday, and this is the week that we're going to be. I asked last Friday for the information, and I don't know why it just can't be provided. Because when it's not provided, then it's all sorts of like, why isn't it being provided? Lots of questions come up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So do you have a time estimate of when that, because we are voting on the budget in a week, and so, and vacancy savings are showing up as a pay for in a couple different amendments. I do want to recognize, like, asking on a Friday before a 3-day weekend just is hard in order to, does impact the turnaround time for some of this, but we are going to need the information in order to figure out if these are realistic numbers in order to actually pay for some of the things that we're expecting it to.
I also don't want it to happen offline. It's a huge number of vacant positions, and it's part of the core part of the county's work with the health department. So again, I wasn't just asking as like, I want to use it in a budget, potentially in a budget amendment. I specifically held back, but also from a programmatic standpoint. And so I don't really want to get it offline.
So no, we won't. So I think what I would like is, just like any answer that we get from a department is posted online for the public, these will be as well, and we can touch base on the answer to this on Tuesday morning in our public work session.
Frankly, I don't.
Commissioner, that's the best we can do at this point.
Why is that the best? I'm sorry, but we know how long the positions have been vacant, right? We know it. We know there's 189 positions, and I don't see why we wait till Tuesday. Then it just gets crammed up in everything else. And I'm also not willing to.
I'm not saying that we're going to wait and get the information on Tuesday. I'm saying that is the next opportunity to publicly disclose that information. But just like any other answers that we get emailed when we're not in a public session, those will also, so they will provide us the information as soon as, and that's why I had a question that Chris hasn't had an opportunity to answer yet of when we will get this information. We will get those emailed to the board. They will be posted online, and then publicly on Tuesday, we will walk through that information.
I don't want to have the conversation on Tuesday. Is the information not available? It's shocking, because we got the list of positions. The only question that hasn't been answered is how long they've been open. And in my multiple conversations with the health department about this, I have said, like, I'm happy to get color-coded, all the reasons why. It was like there's 189 positions, but only actually 3 are available.
So, Commissioner, Chris hasn't had an opportunity to answer the question yet, so let's give him the opportunity to answer the question of when the information will be available.
24 hours.
And The health department did color code theirs in their appendix. So the health department is the only one that I saw actually do that work, and that's where I think it's been challenging to understand with other departments what needs to be held for bumping, what is actually open, and the length of time is not in there. So I think that is helpful to know, because then we know, is this like an ongoing persistent issue? But I really don't want us to belabor this. We have a lot of amendments to go through, and I don't think we're all going to like answers to any of the things that are impact statements around our amendments, because none of this is easy. And everything we do is going to have an impact on either people or programs, and we've got to we also have to keep moving through it so that we can get to a space of, if we have a more thorough conversation next Tuesday, we at least have the information to look at, and we can ask follow-up questions, so we can have a really intentional and thoughtful conversation at our next public meeting.
Agreed.
I think I have asked for the information multiple times. I don't think it's unreasonable. I asked for the 189 positions, and I got 17. And other people may not want to know, that's fine, but I think we all have the right to ask questions about the budget we're voting on and not get it all jammed into next week.
He said it's going to be here 24 hours.
Yeah, but when we have no other public meeting until next week.
That is true. I mean, that is the reality of what we are, right?
I asked for it, though, last Friday. And I can't believe that the information doesn't exist. Maybe it's not color-coded, which I completely understand, but the information exists.
So, Commissioner, we hear your frustration that you didn't
I know,
get the
but I feel like the clock is being run out on me, and people are like, we want to get our information, but you can't get your information.
That is
And
that's not
I don't think it's unreasonable to ask. It's sort of like, we want to move on, but I would like a commitment to get the information at some point today. While we still have a public meeting.
I committed to 24 hours. I hear your concern that you have been asking. I'm not sure what more I can say about what's happened in the past, but we'll commit to the 24 hours, and it sounds like the conversation's going to happen on Tuesday as scheduled. Is that correct?
Yes, but it'll be distributed as soon as it's ready. And Rachel, thank you.
Hi, Rachel Banks, Health Department Director. Sorry, it stepped out. Sounds like there was a conversation about the Health Department. Vacancy stuff, yes. So it won't even take 24 hours. We have the additional information. So the information that was sent this morning was the specifics around the general fund vacancies, which I shared would be the first thing that we could do, and that the other vacancies with the additional information would follow up. So that you will get today.
We don't just have an HR spreadsheet that lists like the positions. I mean, somebody came up with 189 positions. We got to know how long they've been open since.
Yes.
I mean, you said as part of your process that you swept vacancies.
Yes.
That you felt you didn't need. So that the process has been gone through. And the general fund, so yesterday there was 43, but now there's only 17 listed.
So what I understand, the information that you all got talked about 43, I believe it was 48 at a certain point in time, and it says original. Then there's another column that was like the data as of, don't quote me, May 15th, that had the 14.77. The CBO listed out what those 14.77 were. And then the list that we gave you was of those 14.77, there's three kind of areas. One is revenue generating, which of course is you all's, determination, but just wanted to share that information. There are positions in there that have been filled or somebody's base position, which is another category. And then the third category is we believe that those will need to be bumped. So to the larger list, yes, we have a larger list. What I committed to get you was the same analysis that you have in the general fund list.
Actually, at this point, I don't even care about the analysis. I just want to see the list and how long they've been open.
Sounds good.
Which I understand we have.
Yes. And also, I believe that the CBO list that you got does have how long they're open. It's maybe a little bit confusing because it talks about like 0.38 or whatever, which translates into a year. So a full year would be a 1.0. If it says 0.38 or whatever, that's a certain amount of months. So that information you should have had a while back.
You could send that to me over the lunchtime. I'll look at it and I can follow up if questions.
Sure. I think it's on that initial list that was the PDF that you received. It just has a column on there that says length of time open. But I'm happy to walk through it. Michelle and I walked through it as well. I'm happy to walk through that again, as well as the length of time duration on the list that you have.
Yep. So that was sent out to everybody on May 15th. And there is a PDF that has 4 pages. The 4th page is a list of all of the those county positions, and it does, in the last column, it has length of vacancies in years. But you're right, it's like 0.87. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Okay. Great. So let's move back to any other impacts from 1D. County Human Services, there is a reduction in eviction prevention. For this one, I think that there's also some reductions for eviction prevention in other ones, so it'd be good to hear some of the impacts for reducing eviction prevention.
Hello. Hi.
Hello again.
Rachel Pearl, she, her pronouns, Director for DCHS. So this offset has a reduction for the, this is the ongoing $3.5 million for eviction prevention, a reduction of $294,000. So ultimately what that does is, I mean, we're trying, I think there's a couple of different, this is listed as an offset for a few different amendments. I think generally our concern is just it reduces the direct client assistance portion, and what we'll have to figure out, depending on what you all decide, is how we staff that, because it's very much, as you know, like the process of building that program offers around like how much funds we have and how many staff we need in order to be able to get those funds out the door. So I think this amendment reduces the amount of direct client assistance for around 70 households.
294,000, that's about rental assistance for about 70 people, you said?
70 households.
70 households, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Great, thank you.
So not on this one, but Chair, you mentioned other amendments, and I think it's important to note that the other reduction I have in eviction prevention is to fund eviction prevention legal services, and then also to fund a team that can leverage rent assistance out of Medicaid. So when we get to those amendments, we can talk about them more, but I would not equate this eviction prevention reduction to some of the others.
Yes, appreciate that. Okay. All right. Any other questions about impacts for either program additions or offsets for any of the other employment services? We have one last 31 to go through, so I wanted to touch on that and see if there were any impacts that weren't already addressed in some of these others. And this is primarily funded by HSD, but from an area that we haven't talked about yet.
Hello again. So this is a slightly lower add back. So it's a slightly fewer number of employment placements, and people served 136 employment placements and 943 people served. It's just a slightly lower add back. And this program offer, the trade-off here is from 3302B, which is the additional placement out of shelter program offer. And you'll hear this from me probably throughout the day, from this particular program offer, every $13,000 removes one person exiting placement from shelter into housing. That's sort of our estimated cost per household. So this amendment at this amount would result in 249 fewer people exiting shelter to housing. That would take our sort of estimated exit rate from shelter to housing from 30% to 27%.
I miss which amendment we're talking about.
This is Amendment 31, which does some restoration of employment services.
Okay,
and it's taking, and the pay for is the $10 million one-time only housing placement.
All right, thank you.
So Commissioner Jones, you have another employment one, which is the hygiene one? That's not on this list.
No, it's next. It's the next section.
because we didn't consider that employment.
So we're doing employment services next, we're doing homeless services, and that's where it's grouped in.
Yeah, it's homeless services, hygiene, and there's an element of workforce as well.
But it's in that same program offer. That's the challenge. Yeah, it's in the employment program offer.
Okay.
You're not
It's like-
missing anything.
Pardon?
Yes.
Right,
You guys-
because like I included that in my, I mean, that's part of, and yours
So both of
as
our
well.
amendments do, two of his amendments do what both of our amendments do.
Yes. Okay.
Everybody's nodding, so that's a good sign.
Commissioner Jones Dixon separated out employment services and hygiene services, and yours, and the other two amendments did not. So, okay. Great, thank you. I mean, don't go far, because we're now moving into homeless services. Oh, we do have one, the ECDev position, which Jenny Smith, we were going to talk about the ECDev position now. Thank you. You can, like, again, don't go far.
I don't think anybody's going far.
And we'll probably stop after this one, and then we'll break, and then we'll come back at 1.
Hello, Chair and Board of Commissioners, Jenny Smith, Chair's Chief of Staff. My pronouns are she, her.
Okay, and this is where, so now we've moved on to the last one, which is Amendment 4, which is around the creation of a ECDev position, and the pay for is out of a position in the chair's office.
Yes, so the impact would be removing a position from the chair's office, which would reduce our ability to manage the portfolio and project work that comes up, and the similar work could be done remaining in the chair's office. Some of that was done by a previous employee who you all know.
I should note that I'm going to be dropping an amendment on this just to drop the quote manager from the title, so it, because it's not necessarily a manager.
Okay, I will.
Same price, though?
I don't know. So I don't know if that's the same price or not. I know that there was a statement made, I think you made a statement yesterday that this would be a represented position. That's not something that we don't have control over. It is the almighty class comp determination of if a position, is represented or non-represented. So if you remove manager, that's going to probably change both the, potentially change the cost of the position, and then, the other determinations that class comp would make.
Like I say, we're dropping the word manager based on further discussion.
Okay. 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 Thank you, Jenny Smith.
Managing a person.
Okay.
Oh, if only that's how we use the word manager.
Yes. All right. Well, yes, it is your amendment so you can change the title. All right. So we are going to adjourn our budget work session number 19. We will be back this afternoon at 1 p.m. to continue our budget conversations.
I have amendment.
Okay. But before can it wait till 1? Or
well, I'd rather get them dropped.
Okay. Go ahead and drop them.
Okay. So again, these are just refinements. This is the amendment I referred to this morning around the Safe School Zones payment. And so I'll just hand those out. And these were produced before we had the most recent, the information we got right before the meeting. I do think it's within the range, so it's probably close enough, but we can add it up since it's within $10,000. Next, there is, this is a new amendment from Commissioner Moyer and I that is, this relates to the clinical services specialist position that yesterday we had the discussion around that the mental health court, because of the repositioning of these clinical service specialists, there had been 5 to support the mental health court, and because of additional requirements, they were repurposed, and we're left with just 2 out of the 5. And so this adds 1 back. And in the narrative, and we've done this in coordination with the court around this and what they need to be able to help divert mentally ill people from prison as appropriate. And that's it for this morning.
Okay, anything else for this morning? It is, we will return at 1:02 p.m. We are adjourned.